Making another video at a later date about who is more dangerous, Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens. I'll park that for the time being, but I saw this exchange between Harry Cole Saves the West and Tucker Carlson. It was a rather fiery exchange, as the title suggests, on Tucker Carlson's very own network. He shared this particular moment because Tucker obviously thinks that it makes him look good, but it does no such thing. It actually makes Tucker look really bad and quite horrendous, if you ask me. So Harry asked Tucker about Candace Owens and her lies and spreading all these false narratives about the Charlie Kirk case and how Candace Owens has been doing all these conspiracy theories. And Tucker responds by getting really angry and aggressive towards Harry. And the exchange is something else. Have a watch.
Opinion on the death of Charlie. It's not helpful, is it, that, you know, at that time of incredible national upheaval, and obviously personal and familial family tragedy, to have someone like that picking apart the argument and suggesting that there are darker forces at play here that the US government have a hand in covering up. Can you see why people get upset by that and would like you perhaps to sort of distance yourself from that sort of thing?
Pretty funny. So am I going to attack Candace Owens because you think...
I'm not asking you to attack her.
I'm not going to do that, Harry.
No,
I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt as a foreigner of not understanding our politics, but the whole ritual of, you know, this person said something I don't like. In order to be a good person, you must denounce this person. Obviously, I would die before I played along with that. I don't know anyone who's saying that who was the moral authority to compel me. I don't know anyone saying that it was any moral authority at all. And I would say broadly, not about Candace, comma, whom I love, comma, but about all people, getting to the truth is the most important thing. I've devoted my life to it. I haven't always done a very good job at all, but it still remains to this day my animating motive. I want to know what the truth is. Again, I don't always get there. I often usually don't get there. But I want to be the guy who cares what's true. A. B, if you're telling me that because the US government or some law enforcement agency issues a statement that doesn't even make sense, that I'm required somehow morally to accept that and not ask any questions, like, can you hear yourself? I mean, what are you saying?
No, I'm just saying. I'm trying to understand that the point I'm making.
No, I'm trying to understand. Why don't you answer my question? Hold on. What are you saying? So if you're saying that if a law enforcement agency issues an explanation that doesn't actually answer like basic key questions about what happened, that I'm somehow a bad person for asking a follow-up question?
No, I don't think I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that why there is a legal process undergoing and why a guy is standing in an American courtroom today, potentially facing the chair for his role in this. That case, needs to.
I don't think he's in a courtroom today. I don't think he's pled either way.
He was in court. He was in court this afternoon for a hearing.
Did he plead?
It's ongoing as we go on. I think it was.
I'll tell you my position.
Let me just finish my point. Let me just finish my point. My point is, you asked my question. You asked what I'm saying. I'm saying is spectacularly unhelpful to have conspiracy theories, questioning the.
Unhelpful to whom?
Unhelpful to hopefully getting justice for the guy that put a bullet in that young man's neck.
In what sense? Why is it okay? If a government issue, I mean, I think this is kind of why your country is jumping off a cliff collectively, because it's like, well, the government said so. In my country, we have a long tradition of freedom, and that means that every person is allowed to come to his own conclusions based on the facts and consistent with his own conscience. Our Bill of Rights, unlike yours, guarantees that right. That's why we don't send people to prison for Facebook posts. So if the government issues a description of what they say happened and it doesn't make sense to you, I'm not sure who it's, quote, unhelpful to ask, like, what does this mean? What are you saying? And, I'm not referring specifically to Candace Owens or anyone else, but, like, what is it? What are you even talking about? Why is that unhelpful? Are you saying that the government always reaches the right conclusion? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying there's a risk, though, that during a live trial, essentially. That
A risk to whom?
A risk to the justice, a risk to the trial collapsing, a risk to giving this guy ammunition to, perhaps, to suggest in a courtroom that the case against him is somehow flawed.
But you're assuming he's guilty. Like, that's not our system. We don't pronounce people guilty without hearing the evidence. I don't know, what country are you from? That's not how it works here.
I'm not assuming he's guilty. I'm saying he's on trial right now.
We don't put anybody to death unless we're sure they actually did it. And we're sure they did it because we've heard all the evidence, we've heard the counter argument against that evidence, and then the citizens make up their mind. So that's our system. That's how we arrive at justice. We don't just assume because we heard 3 things on Twitter that someone is guilty and deserves the death penalty. Like, that is not justice. That's like African justice. And we just try not to do that here. So I don't know. It looks like this guy did it. From everything I've heard, it sounds like he did it. I don't know. I still don't understand the story. And I think that's fair to say. It's not unhelpful to say that. It's just true. And by the way, it's never unhelpful to tell the truth. The whole mandate in life, especially in our business, is to tell the truth.
Yeah. Do you...
So, right?
You once gave an interview where you accused Pat Buchanan of needling Jewish people. And
oh yeah,
that's been thrown.
Pat Buchanan up and down.
Yeah, I remember you had a bow tie on back in those days. But that accusation, and it has been thrown back at you, for inviting Daryl Cooper onto your show. The guy who said that Churchill was the chief villain of World War II.
Yeah, Daryl Cooper. So
yeah, but I mean,
Daryl Cooper's like actually kind of liberal and very moderate, and I don't really know that episode, which I thought was really interesting, and I really like Daryl Cooper enormously as a person. I think he's an honest person. I don't know if he's right about everything, but he seems motivated by a desire to find out what's true. I'm not exactly sure what Daryl Cooper said to cause this like world historic event.
He said that Churchill was the chief villain of the Second World War.
No, okay, I don't, look, I'll tell you what I think, which is any time you are sending money and munitions to Joseph Stalin, who was the greatest mass murderer in the history of Europe, killed more Christians than any person in history, more than Nero, then you're on the wrong path. How about this? Don't send weapons to Joseph Stalin. It's not an endorsement of Hitler. I loathe Hitler. I'm not pro-Hitler. Hitler's disgusting. But I don't think that any government should ever send weapons to Joseph Stalin. Like, that's just not hard. And we did, and your government did enthusiastically, and it's very shameful that you did that. And why is that? You're not allowed to say that. I don't understand. Why is that? I'm not a Holocaust denier. I'm not anti-Semitic. I just don't think you should send weapons to Joseph Stalin because he murdered tens of millions of people.
That would therefore make Joseph...
How about no?
I get that. I agree with that, but that would surely make Joseph Stalin, not Winston Churchill, the chief villain. Excluding Hitler.
Okay, let me remind you of your own history. Who facilitated those weapons transfers? It was Winston Churchill. It was your prime minister who convinced our president that we needed to support Joseph Stalin. Like, no, that is wrong.
You think it is fair to call?
As a Christian, I find it disgusting to some atheist monster who's murdering Christians, murdering priests like wholesale, blowing up churches. No, I don't think so. I'm not for that. And no amount of screaming by Ben Shapiro is going to make me for that. I hate Hitler, obviously. Let me say it again. I'm very anti-Hitler.
I think that goes.
I'm not for that.
But is Churchill the chief villain? I mean, obviously a leader dear to...
The chief villain? I mean, look at your country now. It's pathetic. Like, how is that a win? As I said to Pierce the other day, I was like, how did you guys win? You go to Japan. Japan has problems, but Japan is a wonderful, functional, beautiful, clean. Your country's not clean. Neither's mine. Like, cleanliness is really important. If your cities are dirty, you've gone way off the rails. And by the way, the Victorians would never, they understood that order was the first thing God created out of chaos. And that is a virtue just by itself. Order is a virtue. And you walk through London, parts of London are wonderful. Parts of London are just absolutely filthy. They're like New York.
Getting to the truth is the most important thing. Tucker, I definitely agree with you. So when it does come down to the Charlie Kirk investigation, why don't you leave it up to the authorities to actually come away with real evidence, real facts, and really figure out what went on and who actually did it in a court of law? Why don't you let someone do that? But the problem is, Candace Owens is not telling the truth at all. She thinks that she's telling the truth, but they're easily refuted. They're easily debunked. I've made video after video debunking all of her claims. And I'm just here in Australia, man, and I can use reason, logic, and rationale to go up against all of the crazy things that she's saying. See, one difference between Tucker and Candace is Candace, you know that she is bat crap insane. Tucker, on the other hand, gives you a little bit of a nudge. It's kind of like you've got two gaslighters and one is worse than the other. One is actually insane, kind of like the Joker. The other one is very sly of hand, still gaslighting you, still making you feel like you're an insane person. But Tucker will not act like he's an insane person. Candace will act like she's an unhinged person. All the conspiracy theories, all of the lies that she's been spreading, all of the attacks towards people. I mean, hell, she went after Ali Bestaki again and said, if you can't handle this, then leave. And then she also went after her being a Christian. See, Candace's responses and all of her attacks, see, this is the reason why Tucker, Megan, and so many others that call themselves conservatives refuse to call out Candace Owens, because Tucker and Candace are both the 800-pound gorillas. And when it comes down to actual facts and evidence, they fall short majorly all the time. They just continue to spread false narratives and lies, which is really harmful and dangerous to potentially getting a conviction of Tyler Robinson. You don't see Candace Owens or even Tucker Carlson say that they believe that Tyler Robinson is actually guilty, even though the evidence stacked up is all against Tyler Robinson. There was a video that I saw today, in fact, of a security camera footage showing Tyler Robinson jumping off a roof with a gun in hand, wrapped in a towel. And all these people saying that he took apart the gun and then reassembled it. That's not true at all. See, we've got to be very careful on the internet, because you do have all of these commentators. There's so many voices on the internet, and they drown out actual truth. They drown out all of the things that people should actually be following. Instead, conspiracy theories have now taken place of actual truth. And Tucker's saying, we have a duty to get to the truth, but yet he's not getting to any of the truth, and he refuses to call out anyone that lies. See, my problem is with the new version of the right is Tucker, he's trying to change it to suit a very particular narrative. A very easy example is him actually saying that Islam is not bad. Islam is actually good. That's problematic. And it's just inch by inch by inch, isn't it? Whereas Candace, on the other hand, she'll just outright come out and say it, and that will be that. And she'll just go completely ham on it. Tucker is just one after the other, trying to shift the narrative. And you saw in this, right? Tucker saying that Winston Churchill providing arms to Stalin, apparently Stalin was worse than Hitler, according to Tucker Carlson. So if that's the case, why didn't you call out Nick Fuentes on your podcast? Why didn't you circle back like you said you were going to, where Nick Fuentes said that he loves Joseph Stalin? If you, Tucker Carlson, are saying to Harry Cole, and yes, before this, you said we have a duty to the truth. So why don't you start telling the truth to people that actually care about the truth? Why don't you start telling the truth to your audience members? But of course, you're more than happy to attack Harry Cole because he's different. He's in a different country, and you're trying to make yourself seem like a big shot. But when it comes down to it, you don't really care about calling out Nick Fuentes, who said that Joseph Stalin was a good person, or that he loved Joseph Stalin. You don't care about that at all. You're trying to make yourself look like a big shot, but in reality, you don't really care, because your actions, when it comes down to it, when it matters most, speaks otherwise. So here you're going, well, because he's a Brit, you're like, he's calling out one of your friends, Daryl Cooper, that said that Churchill was a chief villain of World War II. And then you go on this long spiel. So firstly, you refuse to call out Candace Owens because you love her and she's your friend, and another 800-pound gorilla. Can you imagine the war on our hands if that actually occurred? I don't think it ever will. But still, one can dream, right? And then two, you start having a go at Harry for stating the actual fact of this is what's going on the right. And you're having a go at him and going, well, Joseph Stalin was bad. We shouldn't. Why would Churchill give arms to Joseph Stalin in World War II? Hello, he helped us win World War II. And then Tucker's like, well, what happened to you? You didn't win. And then he compares England to Japan, two different countries, I might add. He goes, you guys didn't win at all. No, we did. When Churchill was still in power, it was a utopia. And then people, like what happens in your very own country, Tucker, under Biden, it falls away. Power shifts, doesn't it? And as a result, the country ends up suffering from the power shifts. Japan, on the other hand, same with Singapore. Lee Kuan Yew's son is now in power. So it passed down from Lee Kuan Yew to then Lee Kuan Yew's son. And as a result, his son has followed on in his father's footsteps and still made Singapore a great country. It's safe. It is healthy. It's got a great system. And that's all from Lee Kuan Yew. Japan, same deal. The people are vastly different. Sure, they had like areas like crime and whatever, but what country doesn't? Right? But Tucker's whole entire argument is completely disingenuous. It falls flat on its face. He wants to continue going after Churchill for saying, oh, well, Churchill was bad for supplying weapons to... Guess what, Tucker? If he didn't, and we didn't have the Russians on our side attacking Hitler, guess what would have happened? You would more than likely not be here, or you more than likely would be speaking German. Big difference. But of course, you're too dumb to see that. Oh, we're giving weapons. I'm sure Churchill would have weighed up the options. Adolf Hitler taking over the West, democracy, or siding with a tyrant to defeat another tyrant. He weighed up the options, and sure, the Americans at that point weren't getting involved. It was only after Pearl Harbor they finally got involved. But seriously, Tucker needs to do a little bit more of, I guess, study into history instead of accusing people. Sure, Churchill was not perfect, but what person is? No one's perfect. But if it wasn't for Churchill doing the things that he did, we would all be more than likely speaking German. The world would look vastly different. And to say that the UK, it's a different time period. Like, it's got nothing to do with Churchill and World War II. He's no longer here. I guarantee you, if he was here, or if anyone that was his descendants that were actually aligned with Churchill, if any of them were still in power today in England, I guarantee you it still would be Great Britain. But guess what, Tucker? And this is like common sense. What happens when you have a change of power and new ideas come in? Progressive ideas. What happened under Biden? We had Trump. You had a little bit of a utopia. And then all of a sudden Biden came in and America was a hellhole again. Hello? What's going on in your country? Sure, you may have freedom of speech and freedom of expression, but that was about to die. That was dying. You were being stifled. You know that. So this is what I mean. He's more than happy to attack Harry Cole and act like he's some big shot. But when it comes down to it, and when you think about what he's actually saying for more than 10 seconds, you realize that he's a dingbat. You realize he's got nothing. He doesn't know history. He'll make it up. It's like a revisionist history. Oh, Stalin killed more Christians, by the way. So why in the world would we side with someone like that? That would be bad. What was Churchill thinking when he did that? Who else was he going to side with to defeat Hitler? He had to do what he had to do. I'm sure he didn't want to do it, but he had to do it for the sake of what? Democracy. For the sake of defeating an utter tyrant that went against even Joseph Stalin. He invaded. And Stalin was like, well, screw you, Hitler. I'm going to side with Churchill now that you're invading me. So we can talk about this for for ages, my friends, but it's simple. It's really simple. Why people follow Tucker Carlson is because he's sly. He's a very sly devil, isn't he? He'll try and move the needle inch by inch to suit his own agenda. But when it comes down to it, and you actually listen to what he's saying, you can realize how dangerous he actually is. And his refusal to call out Candace Owens, and he just wants to defend, even though Candace Owens is trying to destroy his friend Charlie Kirk's legacy, by the way. And then he'll just go after Harry by saying, well, we're allowed to do this. In America, we're allowed to do this. You can't do this in your country because you arrest people for social media posts. So what? It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make spreading lies and conspiracy theories when an active court case is underway. It doesn't make it right, because then the judge or the defense of Tyler Robinson can use it to their advantage and they can get a mistrial. What good is that going to do? Is that going to bring justice to Charlie Kirk's killer? No. So Candace saying that she is investigating. No. She can go away and investigate in private for all I care, because she's not investigating anything. And Tucker, you should know that. But he's like, oh, we're allowed to do it. Doesn't make it right, does it? But of course, nowadays, because we can do it, we will do it. Doesn't matter if anyone has any reservations against it. We're just going to do it anyway. This guy is dangerous and a dingbat. And I'm getting quite sick of him, if I'm being honest. Not good for Christianity, not good for conservatism. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing, and people should stop listening to him. Actually come back to common sense. Anyway, that's enough from me, but you guys take care, be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.